email security, and the Apple Watch. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by TextExpander by Smile, the makers of world-class software. Visit textexpander.com/podcast to learn more and download your free demo. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. And of course, this is MacVoices Live. We are Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. We are here on YouTube, and we have some folks in the chat room with us. We'd love to have you in the chat room with us. So if you can't be there tonight, then plan for next Tuesday night. Tell your favorite smart assistant to remind you to come to MacVoices Live. We have a few things on the agenda tonight to talk about. I'm sure there will be some disagreements on some of this, which is kind of what makes it fun, you know? That's sort of why we're here, to disagree with each other, because it is the holiday season after all, and nothing says holidays like disagreement. Let's find out. I
disagree with that, Chuck.
I see, I knew it. See, right there.
I disagree with his disagreement.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those nights. Let's first do the introductions, then we'll get to do the formal disagreements. So we're taking the screen, as I always do. First up, Mr. David Ginsburg. David, welcome. Good to have you.
Hey, Chuck. Thanks for having me. Apologize for the delay. I'm not sure what's going on, but glad to be here, and we'll have some good, lively conversations tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting. Your video is just like a half second lagged, but the audio sounds great. So I don't know what's going on. Brittany Smith is here as well. Brittany, welcome back from your ADHD conference. How did it go?
Thank you. I'm pretty well. I mean, it was virtual, so not as fun as real life. You should see those ADDers party in real life. It's pretty great.
Okay. But I gather your talks went well?
Yeah, they did. And we had a good time. I had a friend come and visit, so we got to at least watch them together for the ones who wanted to watch the same talks. And yeah, we had a good time.
Great. Well, it's good to have you back. We missed you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Warren Sklar has appeared yet again. Warren, good to see you.
I pop up like the leap year sometimes. I'm good. I don't remember why I wasn't here last week. There was probably a reason. But yeah, all good. It's got cold. It's going to get hot. It's going to get cold. So looking forward to that.
Thank you, Al Roker. Okay, good. Mark Fuccio is here with, I think his background is commenting on the state of the supply chain.
And all sorts of other things. It's perfect excuse. If something you want or can't get or want to buy, is unavailable. Ultimately, people will say it's a supply chain issue. I've been surprised. Last year, I think we had an unprecedented use of the word unprecedented, and this year, I think the word of the year is supply chain.
Okay. I didn't know there were words of the year, but
back to you.
If there weren't, then that's probably pretty good. Yeah, just a quick comment on that, Mark.
I'm getting internet unstable.
Yeah, you are. You're also a bit lagged. So, but to comment on the supply chain thing, I had a recall on my car as well as a state inspection due. So I took it in, and I haven't been back to the dealership in, probably since the last inspection. And I was shocked. There were no new cars on the lot. There were no new cars in the showroom. Nothing. It's kind of
people are getting more money for the used cars than some new cars. And I
20% increase.
I priced out my Tesla that's over 1.5 years old, and it's I could get about $2,000 more than what I paid for it. But the problem is that you have to buy a car, which is now my car is actually $10,000 more than it was when I bought it a year ago. So that's why everything's empty and the supply is crazy. So
yeah, usually this dealership always has loads of cars everywhere, and it was kind of surprising. Last but not least, with no commentary in his background, Mr. Jim Ray. Jim, welcome.
Oh, I'm definitely least.
No, you're not least. You just are disagreeable. That's all. So I pulled out a couple things that caught my eye, and they all actually caught my eye today. I'm going to throw them in the chat room, and then we can kick them around. But the first one was this story, and we were talking about this pre-show, and I was learning some things about the security of mail on the Apple Watch and why it's not what it should be. And Brittany, you were saying that I guess this is something that I thought that you could, in the first place, I thought you could remove most any app from your watch if you wanted to. And in looking at my phone and my watch, I don't have that option to delete it.
No, you don't. So if you were hoping, oh, well, that's fine. I'll just delete the mail app on my watch and then I won't accidentally hit it. Yeah, there's a lot of apps you can't get rid of. And so I don't like list views either. And so then I end up with just a gigantic honeycomb of garbage I can't get rid of. So that's fun.
Well, what intrigued me, and somebody correct me because, and I've got to pull my watch up or my phone to look at it. But in my mail settings, I can do mirror my iPhone, or custom.
Right.
And I'm not
That's
sure
notifications.
That's notifications.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. But below that, see mail app, and then I have options, but I have allow notifications, send a notification center, notifications off. They're in a separate section. Above that, I have a section that says mirror my iPhone or custom.
Right.
And I'm not sure what that applies to, because then if I go down to mail settings and look at accounts, I've got the accounts that I would expect to have on my phone, but they're on my watch, and there's no way I can take them off, at least not so far that I found. And I would think that there would be a way if I only wanted, say, one account on my watch, as opposed to all three of the ones that are on my phone, that I'd be able to do that. But so far, I haven't found a way to do it.
Oh, in the mail thing, I see.
Yeah, under accounts, you don't have the option to remove those accounts at all.
And I do think it is still notifications, even though it doesn't say it, because mine says custom and off. Because I never, ever want to, even though I have quiet ones for certain accounts on my phone, I never need to see that on my watch. Like that's not
those
a
are
watch
notifications.
task.
If you click on one, it will say just something about show alerts from that account.
Yeah.
So it's just a notification thing, I think.
Okay, so that's fine. That makes sense. But the mail thing is kind of a mystery. I don't get it. We need to, before we go any farther, we need to welcome the birthday girl, Callie Guimont.
Woohoo!
Happy birthday!
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, Kelly, you need to send us each $20 in Apple Pay, or we will start singing "Happy Birthday." You have 10 minutes.
I was once described as the person who actually likes to wear the sombrero at the Mexican restaurant. So there will be no payment. Let me go get my pitch pipe so that you're all on the same key.
Yeah, you haven't heard us sing. I think you'd be smart to pony up the money.
Maybe you can get somebody else to pony up the money, though, Chuck.
For $20
watching live.
Yeah, $20 a whack to keep us from singing would have been a very different proposition.
Yeah. Okay. So, chat room, how much will you pledge? We'll do the telephone thing. How much will you pledge not to have us sing? Oh man. So, Kelly, just to catch you up, we're talking about the Apple Watch email security and privacy thing here, and we're exploring ways to manipulate the mail on the watch.
Okay.
As in none, mostly.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, the biggest power user email tip that I've gotten that I've sort of found for myself with regards to email is I use Spark for one of my email addresses. And part of the reason I do that is because I can interact with it on the watch. So I have the option right from my arm of deleting a message, or you can set up some quick replies. So, hey, thanks. Thanks for sending that back. I appreciate it, whatever. Or delete, or, there's a few other things that are like minimal interaction, but you can do them through Spark with the message, with the message itself. So that's like the best thing I have found for it so far. For as much time and effort and blood and sweat and tears and pixels as are spent on everybody agonizing over email, it baffles me how Apple continues to ignore it. Like,
the story, Callie, the story is that there is mail on the watch, and it leaks information back to the sender.
The very new feature for security has not made it to the watch yet.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I don't know if
Yeah.
it says it leaks it. It just, you can't do the mail if you have the privacy, if you have that new iCloud privacy turned on.
But what I mean, like, is in general, like, I wanted to have an email widget that would just show me like the 5 most recent messages in my inbox. Can't do it. You can't have email widgets. Like with the mail app.
On the phone?
Yeah, with the mail app.
how about the no share sheet? Like the mail is stuck in 2000 something a long time ago.
Yeah.
I like the phone app. I like the phone mail app. The watch mail app.
It's missing a
watch
lot of
mail
really
app is-
basic features.
Yeah, like the first thing a bunch of folks, like a bunch of people who make email clients, like the first thing they all did was went, check out the widget for our email client. And Apple's like, widgets are for the weak. Like, I don't know what their stance is on that. Like why that doesn't work. So, I wanted to, because I wanted like a smart stack that had like my Spark Mail and my Apple Mail, where I could like switch between them easily and just see, like, is there something I need to take action on in like the 5 most recent messages? I figured it would be a super minimal thing. Like, can I just see what they are? I didn't want to have to interact with the widget. I just want to be able to see it. And no, like that was the official stance from my watch, from my phone.
Okay, so first of all, I want to get Mark Fuccio is rejoining us. Hopefully his connection will be a little more stable. But how many people here use Mail as the Apple Mail as their preferred app on the phone or their Mac?
Those are 2 different questions, Chuck.
Oh, yes.
It's the same for me. I use it on everything. I've tried different mail clients. I've tried Spark. I've tried Outlook. I've tried everything. And the unified mailbox is what brings me back to most of the Apple mails because, at least on the Mac, I love being able to mass delete my junk mail because it all is unified. I can mass delete my deleted items because it's all unified. I know Spark kind of does that too, but the Apple Mail does everything I needed to do on the phone. It's not quite as good as the app on the Mac because of some of those unified features are a little bit harder to do. And the Watch app, I don't think I ever responded or created an email from it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I use it. I don't prefer it.
Yeah, well, Warren, that's sort of where I was going, and Kelly just sort of did an interesting thing. Is this, first of all, is this mail privacy thing an issue if you are not using the Mail app on the watch? I don't think so. So I think that at least, the solution to the concern over the privacy is just don't do Mail on your watch and you're fine.
Most
Do we
people
actually know the answer to that though? Like, is it doing background app refresh?
Whatever it's doing, by the time
think-
people figure it out, it'll be patched. So trust me, if Apple knows about, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair question, Brittany. I can't see how it would if I'm not. If
It
I'm
might not. I
interacting.
just don't know what it's actually doing. So
This edition of MacVoices is supported by Smile, the makers of TextExpander, my most used productivity utility. What would you do if I told you that I can make you more productive in less than 5 minutes with a utility that is easy to set up, easy to understand, and easy to use? A utility that you will use frequently. A utility that suggests new ways to use itself to your benefit. You would beat a hasty path to their website, right? I'm talking, of course, about TextExpander from Smile. With TextExpander, typing a few short keystrokes or a phrase expands into whatever you want, a word, a sentence, a paragraph, or even pages of text. And it expands to that text exactly the same each and every time. No typos, no fat-fingering something that you type constantly, just accurate text input. And TextExpander watches what you type and makes suggestions for new snippets to make you more efficient. All that is waiting for you at textexpander.com/podcast. Go right now to textexpander.com/podcast and sign up for your free trial. See how easy it is to set up, understand, and use TextExpander. Soon, you won't want to be without it. That's TextExpander from Smile. Thanks to Smile for their ongoing support of MacVoices.
I wasn't sure.
In the mail from Apple, it says in the Mail app, Mail Privacy Protection helps protect your privacy by preventing email senders from learning information about your mail activity. When you turn it on, it hides your IP address so senders can't link it to your other online activity or determine your location. It also prevents senders from seeing if you've opened the email they sent you. This is magical if you've ever gotten one of those emails about like, did you miss it? And it's like another reiteration of the newsletter you got earlier this week, or as I like to call them, invitations to unsubscribe. It says in here, Apple never said Mail Privacy Protection supports watchOS. So there was like a screenshot in here that someone had that says this picture was loaded from a remote server and it's like on the watch. And so Apple never said it, but it definitely does not feel like any great leap of faith to presume that if it's out, that it would work everywhere, I guess. But it's not like it's the first time Apple's done something like that where, it's called AirDrop, but it doesn't always work everywhere, like things like that. So
I'm really surprised. I mean, the way that works that the sender finds out about it is by putting a little hidden image. Mm-hmm. And why on earth is the Watch Mail app displaying images? I would think it would just not display images, period, because it's a watch.
And doesn't that feel easier? Like, I know that was one of the things that they were like, there's more, like you can see the image on your phone now when someone texts you a picture or whatever, but that doesn't, like, on the one hand, yes, I can see why you would want that, but I also see like why it would be a thing you might want to turn off. Like, I don't need my watch to show me a picture because I feel like I have an awful lot of watch screen now, and it's not enough to look at the photo that David just sent me.
I don't want email on my watch, period. But
that's a different problem to solve.
In fact, actually, sort of the news of this story is, for me, is there's a mail app on my watch. And I had to go look and like, oh, well, look at that. There is. I didn't know that.
Well, so I guess, I'm looking at the practical side. So let's assume that this report is accurate. So I think the solution is simple, except for Brittany's question, that I just don't, if I'm concerned about privacy, I'm not going to use the mail app on my watch. Mm-hmm. I can't delete it. I can't take my accounts off unless I take it away. I take the accounts off my iPhone. So I just don't use the mail. In fact, if I'm really concerned, I will delete the accounts out of my mail app on my phone, which takes them out of my watch, and I'll use a third-party program to access.
Well, does the third party offer protection? Because that is not a standard feature.
That's a fair point. But yeah, good.
Well, the other thing I would point out is maybe it's a thing that can happen on your watch, but like, for example, I only get notifications about email on my watch from VIPs. I don't get a notification for every email. My battery would last about 45 minutes if I did. So I don't get email notifications for everybody for one thing. And the number of VIPs is like 4, I think. And most of them are pretty low traffic. So I barely get any email notifications on my watch in the first place. So that's like the first thing I think, if you are concerned about mail privacy protection, like stop getting mail notifications on your watch for one thing, and that'll help.
I think the notifications are fine. It's just a pop-up.
Yeah,
it's just not until you actually open up that email.
Right, but getting the notification on your arm prompts you to interact with the notification on your arm, and then so like if it only ever happens on your phone, then you won't ever see it on your watch, and you won't ever have that problem.
The story says if the notification comes up on the watch, and if there are images, that the watch will report back to the server. So you would need to not have notifications enabled on the watch, unless, like, Kelly's doing. I mean, she probably doesn't care if her VIPs, find out she's read the mail, and they're probably not. They're probably not doing that, because this is typically a sort of thing. It's not in individual emails. It's done by things like MailChimp, bulk emails, and they have a whole infrastructure to, come up with a custom
all it's doing
URL for each person.
All it's doing is not hiding your IP address. That's all it's doing on when you respond on the watch. Is what I'm reading, right?
Right.
Which is what any other mail client probably would do, and that Apple just started doing anyway.
Well, it says the notification preview on Apple Watch does indeed download remote content using the user's real IP address.
Yes.
So if you are committed to this down to the ground, then stop getting notifications on your watch.
We since 2010 we've been living without this feature of hiding our IP address. For the time that Apple's going to fix this. I mean, so you guys can stop using your watch app if you want for mail, but I don't see the harm in doing what we've been doing for years and years and years.
This isn't going to be. Apple's going to change this, and
they'll fix it. As I said, they'll fix it.
It's a nice clicky story for whatever this.
But even if they
download blog,
it's your IP address. I mean, they're not going. I'll give you my IP address right now if you guys.
Well, and they're going to get the IP address of the watch too. So.
Right, well,
which I guess it depends. If I'm in my house, that will be.
It's your local IP address.
It'll be my router. Yeah.
Hacker man trying to hack 192.168.2.3.
Yeah, but this is one.
What I'm wondering about is the part that makes it news. Is it that this is happening? Is it that Apple was not more clear? Because it sounds like there's sort of two things happening at once here, and that's the part that is going to make the difference. You know what I mean?
The news is, Apple made some great new feature on their phone, but their bonehead developers didn't make it transfer over to the watch. On Apple. That's the news. It's not like scaring you. That's the news. Is like you were making fun we're making fun of Apple for not following through exactly on the product they pushed out, and they will. That's
probably their different teams didn't talk to each other.
Yeah,
I was going to say that. I was going to say that, Jim. I agree exactly. Different teams, different priorities. It got caught. I'm sure Apple is embarrassed as hell. I'm sure people have.
I'm not.
Have been beaten, and that Steve Jobs ghost is sticking them as a walk around the place.
I take issue with that. Apple's not embarrassed because they documented that it doesn't work on your watch, and if you didn't read the fine print, that's on you, dude. That's I'm sure that's what's happening because they put that out there knowing that somebody was going to see this.
When did they put that out there?
It says it's in a support document on the Apple website. And when I look at that document, this one doesn't have a date, but it's part of the iPhone user guide from iOS 15.
Okay,
and
so
it doesn't show any sort of
again, but that's sort
update.
That's for better or worse. That's not the behavior people expect from Apple. They expect that sort of petty shit. Oh, you didn't read the fine print. They expect that from Microsoft or Google. I think the reality is. Somehow, something didn't happen. The two teams didn't communicate, and this thing, emerged. I don't think Apple wanted, to be, seen to be, petty and legalistic, and screw you if you didn't read paragraph, paragraph 3 on page 7 of.
I mostly agree with that. I mean, it could be something simple as resource management. The fact is, they've been struggling with this feature and the other privacy feature for the entire beta. They were released late. They probably just looked at how often Jim and I open up the mail app on our watch and said, "Let's just release it."
I mean, honestly, but I don't think they were being petty about it. I think they put that document out because it wasn't ready yet. It isn't a thing that they could release on watchOS the same time it came to iOS. I really don't think it's any more complicated than that. I don't think it had anything to do with being.
then that gets rid of everything.
Because of expected behavior. I think what it is that Apple did not explicitly say, if you're doing this, because they did not shout from the rooftops, if you do this on your watch, it's not going to work. I don't think it's any more complicated than that. Like, I really, like, that's why I was asking what makes this the newsworthy story. And I think it's just that you have a presumption that something's going to be the same on both of them, because we talk a lot about how everything starts from like this initial kernel of iOS that goes off to be the thing that runs your phone and the thing that runs your watch and the thing that runs your TV and the thing that runs your iPad, and how all of those start from the same central code base, you know. And so I think, you know, it didn't come to the watch. I don't think the plan was never to have it show up on your watch. I think it just couldn't come out the same time it did on iOS. And it's just like Brittany said, it's just a resource management thing. And that's why the documentation is out there for people who are interested in digging into it.
Right. The story is that, you know, Apple should be a little bit embarrassed, but I mean, we were starting out saying, don't use a watch app. I can't really recommend saying that to anybody, not to use a mail app because of this bug. I mean, or this issue. Because,
I'm going to recommend you don't use the watch app for a bunch of different reasons. That don't
me
have
too.
To do with
100%. The watch app on the mail app on the watch is horrid. But, you know, if somebody comes to me and says, I read this article and I responded to an email on my watch, should I be worried? I'm going to say, no, sit down, take off your tinfoil hat, and you'll be fine.
I don't see anywhere in this Apple webpage that mentions the watch.
Yeah, no, I don't see it either.
I mean, you could say, well, it does mention the iPhone. So since it doesn't mention the watch, you should assume, you know, it doesn't have it because it's not mentioned. And I think that's why this happened. You know, although the phone app on the watch may have originally diverged from the mail app on the iPhone, I'm sure that was a long time ago. And, you know, they're not in the same source control. They're not, you know, so somebody had to go and say, oh, take this change and re-implement it on the mail app on the watch. And my guess is that, you know, I think it was just probably overlooked. I don't think it was resources or even intentional. Probably nobody even noticed until this person noticed today. Yeah. And now, you know, I assume that probably there are people at Apple that are embarrassed. And somebody's like, hey, how did this happen? This shouldn't have happened. It's a failure to coordinate, but it's perfectly understandable because, you know, they're writing 1 billion lines of code and, you know, it falls through the cracks.
I mean,
and this is pretty minor, you know, and I'm sure somebody's scrambling probably at this very minute to implement that. And, you know, whatever WatchOS 8. Whatever is going to come out in 2 weeks, and you know, because I'm sure it's minor,
or 2 days.
I
depends if they get to go home and go to sleep tonight or not.
I don't think this would be something they would push out a release just for this. Oh. I could be wrong, but you know, I would think they would just roll it in.
Big deal.
Roll it into the next thing, and not only that, you know, you don't want to push things unless they're really something huge, because you know when you change things, you break other things, and so you want to do testing, and you know, so you don't put something out on a short basis unless it's really an emergency, and you know,
I mean, look at the stuff we've gotten that was not on Tuesday, right? Like when an OS update comes out and it's like Monday or it's Thursday, and you're like, and all it says is like bug fixes and security updates, and then you find out later, like, yeah, it's a good thing you ran that when you did, because the hole it patched, like you could have driven a Mack truck through, and you know, like.
Yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if Apple never mentions this again. And the only way we find out this is fixed is somebody tries it and goes, oh, it's fixed. 4 layers deep in a security. Right. You know, after the release notes come out or something. Yeah.
The private relay has been going down for the last few days. It's been up and down too. I mean,
it's been twitchy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they added these 2 features, right, in the last iOS, and they were not there before. And to complain or to be worried about 2 things that were not even a thought
that didn't exist until a month ago.
Right. But again, it's because it's Apple and it's something happens and it's a mistake, it creates opportunity for all sorts of ability to, throw stinky stuff at the corporation or just, play gotcha and write clickbait.
Right. If Jeff Bezos comes back and say I responded to something on my Apple Watch and now I'm hacked, and that makes news.
It's given us something to talk about for 30 minutes.
It would,
yeah.
And actually, didn't that happen? That happened to him once before.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Speaking of that, it's time to move on. But I do want to give the chat room their say. Brian says he uses Mail iCloud as his secondary personal mail service. Outlook is his primary. Brad says, does it surprise anyone that watchOS is not as mature as iOS or macOS? Great point. Brian says, somewhat crude, but I recall a joke on South Park about people not reading all of the terms and conditions from Apple. I think we've all done, we all sit and read those just before we go to bed.
There's a podcast. Hold on. There's a podcast called T's and Z's, like terms and conditions, but they read like the terms and conditions of different user agreements for stuff as a sleep story so that you can fall asleep listening to somebody go, the party of the first part does agree that Facebook, blah, blah, blah. And it totally works. I'm here to tell you because I listen to that podcast at night. It's really great.
Okay. So Eric says, Thunderbird is my email client of choice. I can move profiles between different platforms, same as with Firefox. But Eric doesn't know if Thunderbird has a watch app.
I think Thunderbird was decommissioned about 2 years ago.
No, it's still current.
No, it's still
there. Or at least there's a current Mac version because I'm using it to, I use it to test email stuff a lot over at the day job. I spend a lot of time opening stuff in Thunderbird and going, how does this work and not screw up the mail that I'm already using for other stuff? So,
And Warren, I thought I had heard that too, Warren. So you're not crazy.
No, I actually had some user, help him convert over to a different mail. But maybe it came back. Who knows?
Yeah. To wrap it up, Brad says, I'm not surprised in the least that it's not quite there. And I think that's a fair point, especially the document on Apple's website does not say this does not work with this.
Right.
It just doesn't say anything about it, which to me says it's just been overlooked. And I'm with Mark. Mark, I think this is clickbait. The panel is back on the next edition of MacVoices to talk about the new Amazon Prime Video app and why it's to Amazon's advantage to have a Mac app for Amazon Prime Video. We also start a discussion of Apple buying ads for apps in the App Store. Is it just clickbait or is it really a big deal? That's next time on MacVoices. I hope you'll join us. Until then, and as always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.